So we are moving on to agenda item 6. This is Finance Committee report. And so Chair Davis, please.
Thank you. I don't know if my report out actually matches what's in. We have a motion for the board that the board approve R277-407 school fees draft 3 on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion before the board is that the board approve R277-407 school fees draft 3 on second and final reading. Seeing no lights, let's go ahead and vote. Oh. I mean, go ahead, Member Real.
Nobody's voted.
Never is this board that efficient. And then the one time I have freaking questions, you're efficient. Okay, great. I have questions about the school fees.
Are we swearing on the public record now? Is that like
Freaking?
No, let's continue.
That's implied swearing. That's an example.
And it's fine if it's, I am happy and absolutely proud to be on the public record saying that. Okay, so on the school fees amendment, I have questions about the IB/AP concurrent piece, because I do know some schools offer, they're not necessarily, they're waivers for students who can't afford to pay for their AP exam or their IB program or their concurrent classes. They get kind of a scholarship in order to get that, to be able to take those classes and get their first credential. And I'm worried about the language in this rule, the way that it was amended, might hinder the opportunity for students to get those waivers or scholarships, in quotes, to take AP, IB, and concurrent classes. And I don't know if someone from staff can just clarify that.
I can clarify really quick, and staff can back me up if I get it wrong, but the item was removed as so it doesn't force it to be waived, and it doesn't preclude it from being waived if a school wants to give a scholarship. If you'll notice in the textbook section, it does have, say, IB, AP, all of those. Those fees are waivable for the graduation credit portion, but it doesn't force a K-12 school to pay a higher ed institution for credit, to my understanding.
What's the line number on this?
Follow-up. Member Real, do you have a follow-up?
Okay, so to clarify, I just want to make sure I get this right, because I don't want us to change this and then a bunch of LEAs being like, now we can't give all these students. So you're saying that, but there is already a partnership with Concurrent. So I know that partnership, how the funding goes between higher USHE and K through 12. But with the IB and the AP, it's okay because they're not paying an institution of higher education?
It's an outside organization. So the textbook for the course to take to get graduation credit would be waivable. So to take the class for high school graduation credit is waivable. To take the AP exam to get college credit on top of the course, which some students do and some students don't, would be optional for an LEA if they want to provide a scholarship.
Okay. And none of this mixes up any of the partnerships and the way that we have the funding model where there are fees for concurrent enrollment.
And those are waivable.
And they are waivable.
Yes.
But you cannot pay a higher ed institution.
Those are not the fees. Maybe we need staff to clarify Is that your understanding?
I trust you. I would just feel better about voting, knowing for sure.
To take it for the high school portion is waivable.
Where's the question going
understand.
to? Sorry, we've got this back and forth here. Where's the question directed, Sarah? Do we have staff going to answer that?
Yeah.
Sam Uri, School Finance Director.
Gina Smith with school fees.
Sam, do you need the question restated, or
Yeah,
do
if
you
you'll
have it?
quickly restate that.
Member Real?
I would love some clarity on if the way that this rule is written, as we've taken out in line 255, concurrence, CTE, IB, AP, and then as well in the other amendment, they're the only amendments in this rule are related to post-secondary courses on 55 and 58 through 58. I just am clarifying that this isn't going to remove the ability for LEAs to give waivers or scholarships or whatever for students taking concurrent enrollment courses. And the funding that's related to the partnership between USHE and concurrent enrollment.
That's correct. It simply clarifies here that these are what we call a non-waivable charge in some instances. That does not mean the LEA can't opt to provide those services.
Okay.
So it wouldn't affect any ongoing partnerships. It wouldn't affect any LEA choice to provide programs.
Even though it's clarified as a non-waivable charge.
That's correct. It's when the school fees bill made some adjustments to a fee course and a non-fee course. This was clarified as well as a non-waivable charge. But really, if you go to the definition, I mean, we're defining it here, but it is a charge that the LEA cannot be required to fee waive. They still can, but they cannot be required by.
It can't be a required non-waivable charge.
Waivable charge.
A required waivable charge.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Okay,
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair, for
So
taking
that's
that
our-
time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's our understanding, is that it would not affect any ongoing programs, scholarships, et cetera.
Member Lear.
And thank you to Member Real for kind of stopping that train that was leaving the station. My question is similar, and let me just restate it and see if this is also true. And I wish I talked to Chair Davis about this earlier, and then we never could connect to come up with a good amendment. But I want to make sure that I am understanding, and then others are too. In concurrent enrollment, CTE, IB, and AP, any charges related to the high school credit or the courses for high school students that will result in high school credit are waivable. The ones that are not waivable are those that would start a transcript for secondary, or being paid for taking or getting the cost of the AP test, or I don't know, I'm not so familiar with IB, but I think there's charge for the IB credit that goes to secondary, that goes to post-secondary. That's right. So those things are not waivable because they're not K-12 costs. They're higher ed costs, fees. So I just wanted to state that again, and I wish it was a little more clearly written in this rule, but I also failed to come up with a good amendment. So I just wanted, at least we have now the public record saying that these parts are waivable, these parts are the responsibility of the student family or a program if there's some kind of partnership or grant. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Chair Davis, are you light on for chairing or for comment? Okay, so let's restate the motion then. The motion that came from committee is that the board continue my apologies, that the board approve R277-407 school fees draft 3 on second and final reading. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Davis.
He's just trying to stall so I can't get my good time back.
You know what, Chair Davis, before you go in, we do have a superintendent online regarding agenda item 7. Not 6.7, actual 7.
So
Is
you want
that-
to pause or what?
Is that okay? I mean, we can have the superintendent wait. That's fine.
No, I'm
But,
happy to be flexible. We can come back to this.
This is just for the board's awareness. This is the Box Elder School District emergency waiver request. Is there any objection to moving to this agenda item briefly to take care of this? Seeing none, AAG Beal, will you come forward and help us with some background? Oh, you have a microphone. You don't need to come forward. Thank you.
No problem. So this is a waiver request. It's not the normal ones that come through law and licensing because it's being made under our 277-121-5, which is that an LEA can seek a waiver directly from the superintendent from the 180-day requirement if they close due to snow, inclement weather, or other emergency. And so we had a request come in from Box Elder District who closed for 2 days at the end of August following the events that occurred in their county with the line of duty deaths of two officers up there. And due to the nature of the small community, there was not enough staff present at school. All the staff was attending the funerals of those fallen officers, so there wasn't sufficient staff to staff the schools on those 2 dates. So they requested a waiver so that they wouldn't have to make up those 2 days of school from Superintendent Hart. Superintendent Hart granted that waiver, and then the board has to either ratify or not that decision within 45 days. So it's presented to you as if you ratify her decision, they don't have to make up those days, and that waiver is granted. If you opt not to, then they would have to make up those 2 days.
Thank you for that. Member Earl?
I would like to place the motion that the board approve Box Elder School District's 180-day exemption waiver request.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Go ahead, Member Earl.
And I'll just speak to it. This is in my community, one of my districts, and this was a very, as you know, very tragic thing. And yes, it very much impacted the community. So I just would appreciate the support and this voting for this exemption. So.
Thank you. The motion before the board, and we do have Superintendent Carlson online if there's any questions, but we'll hopefully get you back to work soon. Seeing no other lights, let me restate the motion. The motion then is that the board approve Box Elder School District's 180-day exempt waiver request. Seeing no lights, let's vote. That passes 14 in favor, one abstention. That abstention coming from Member Bogus. Thank you, Superintendent Carlson, and thank you, AAG Beal. Okay, Chair Davis, I will put before us lunch is scheduled at 12:30. And Chair Davis, I'm going to turn the mic back over to you, and you can. I don't know what these other motions will look like, but go ahead and.
This next one was because co-curricular needed to be defined, and we had changes to co-curricular in code. The motion is that the board continue and approve R277-494 charter online home and private school student participation in extracurricular or co-curricular activities, draft 2 on second and final reading.
The motion before the board then is that the board continue and approve R277-494 charter online home and private school student participation in extracurricular or co-curricular activities, draft 2 on second and final reading. Seeing no lights, let's vote. That passes 14 in favor, one opposed. That opposition coming from Member Bogus. Back to you, Chair Davis.
The committee moves that the committee continue and, or the motion for the board is that the board continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends draft 1 on second and final reading.
The motion is that the board continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends draft 1 on second and final reading. Member Bogus?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering about the SLP inclusion in this. And I have some other questions. Could we bring whoever needs to talk about that to the table?
Is this Chair Davis? Who's the staff? Who?
I believe it's the IEP language in code, and that would be, I don't remember who did it in committee. Was that Scott or Leah or Elise? It was adding the speech language pathologists to this stipend. Yeah, the question that was asked is, why were the speech language pathologists added to this educator stipend?
Is that the question, Member Bogus?
Yeah, because the code lines I'm looking at, they're not telling me we have to do this, and I have some other concerns too.
Yeah.
Scott, please.
So, Chair, I'm sorry, if you'll just repeat the question, you're asking why did staff add the,
So maybe staff didn't add, maybe they were directed to add. I don't know. I want to know why we're adding SLPs to a stipend, and
right?
if you would like the greater context, I can add that, but I think you can answer the question without it.
Well, because they've been previously excluded, right? They're not eligible to receive the stipend. So by adding them, that allows staff to include them in the calculations for that stipend. Does that help answer the question, Chair, or?
Member Bogus?
Yeah, so it's not required by code?
My understanding is well, I think the code is silent on it. It doesn't say no or yes, so we're looking on through, but we can have staff just verify that, I'm not misquoting code. But I don't think it's listed, those positions are not listed specifically in the code. It doesn't say we can't do it, but that's why we're adding it, is just to see, or for clarity.
Okay, so I have some follow-up questions, if that's okay.
Sure. Chair, I think Chair Davis has a response to that as well, if you want to see if that'll help.
I'm just trying to remember the conversation in committee, but it seemed like it was because the speech language pathologists are licensed through USBE, whereas the other related service providers are licensed through DOPL. And so as licensed through USBE, they're on an educator license as a speech language pathologist, and that's kind of defined in the other areas of code. But there may be more to that than I remembered from the...
Yeah, and ma'am, or Chair, through the Chair. Okay, so correction, clarification. The code does explicitly say speech language. So that's what we're trying to do, is put it into the rule to be consistent with the code, to allow them to have or be considered for the stipend.
Okay, then I have...
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I have a second follow-up. It
Sure.
changes my follow-up.
Sure.
Is there a cap on funding for this?
Well, yes, yeah, because of the amount of the appropriation or the allotment, then yes. I mean,
I figured
technically,
as much.
by way of that, yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that.
Through the Chair.
As best I can tell, through the chair, sir, there is no, I don't know how to articulate this. There's nothing that gives preference, if you will, to classroom special educators in this rule. Am I reading it correct that says that there's not a preference given to classroom? Did I miss it?
No, I agree with Dr. Voorhees on my right here that there's nothing in there,
There's
Chair.
no preference.
Yeah,
So,
no preference, yeah.
so if I could direct one final
another
complex
follow-up? Yep.
question to Dr. Voorhees. Dr. Voorhees, my concern is that SLPs already have master's degrees and are paid at that lane and column in the salary schedule, but we have lots of incredible new special educators that are going to burn out really easily, and they are not paid in the same lane and space as our SLPs. And my concern is that we need to prioritize this funding for our classroom educators. Could you maybe either make me smarter and disagree with me, or make me feel smart and tell me that I'm thinking correctly?
Please, Dr. Voorhees.
Thank you, Board Member Bogus. So you are exactly right. It is complicated. And you are also correct. We have a lot of early years special educators in classrooms. Speech language pathologists have been, I don't know that lobbying is the right word, but have been concerned that they have not been eligible for this stipend for several years, because the stipend is specific to doing paperwork for special education before the school year or after the school year. And speech language pathologists do as much paperwork in many cases as special education teachers, and in some cases more, because they have more students on their caseloads than the average special educator. So that's one complication. The issue that Board Member Davis brought up is one that has been complicating for years, because there are other related service providers who also have to do the paperwork, but they don't have USBE licenses. They have DOPL licenses, like physical therapists and occupational therapists. So the conversation has been had for years about there's a finite amount of money, to your point. The paperwork has to be done. Everyone related to special education does the paperwork. How is the best way to share the funding? And speech language pathologists have for years made the point that in some cases they have to do even more paperwork than special educators because there are more students on their caseload. So we take the amount of money that is available every year, do a calculation on how many individuals are eligible, and tell them then, we tell LEAs then how many days of paperwork can be done per eligible educator based on that allotment. So, I mean, that doesn't respond to the value of having speech language pathologist involved, just the complicating factors of the discussion.
So I have one final follow-up question. My experience has been that our SLPs have paperwork time built into their schedule. That it's not the same, in my opinion, and my observation of my experience, that the paperwork is as I'm going to use the word cumbersome or oppressive as it is for a classroom special educator who is interfacing with students all day long, and then their paperwork comes outside the school days. And I know that SLPs meet with students, but their schedules, in my experience, accommodate that time. There's the infrastructure is often a space where they see a student, they have time to do the paperwork. They see a student, they have time to do the paperwork. Is that something that maybe is just my experience, or is that something that is commonplace? And maybe you cannot answer that question. I'm not asking you to speculate.
I think that would be very LEA and or school specific.
So I don't know. I'm going to vote no on this unless there's the will to suspend it. I think we should put a preference in here for our special education classroom educators, especially those that are straight out of school. I think there's a need for that. I don't know that we can do that right before lunch, but I would move to postpone this agenda item till after lunch.
There's a motion to postpone this agenda item until after lunch. Is that correct, Member Bogus? Yes. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Member Bogus, so you want to speak to that?
Thank you, sir. I think we should just spend a little time maybe with Deputy Superintendent Voorhees and our policy team and see if we can create something that creates a priority for our classroom special educators. And if that doesn't come to fruition in 30 minutes, then we can vote this through, and it's no harm, no foul.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I would actually speak against postponing it and or changing having preferences. I've worked in special education most of my career, and I can tell you that I have seen SLPs work just as hard and as many long extra hours that they don't get paid for as other special educators. And so making one a preference over the other is really concerning to me, because I do think that that is a message that we value one over the other. And I believe that both a special education teacher and an SLP are important members of an IEP team to make sure our students are being served. So I would speak against this and support the original motion. Thank you.
Member Lear?
I recall some years ago starting to add SLPs to some of these special education perks, let me call it that. And I recall at the time there was discussion that it was hard to find SLPs. And so this was maybe 10 plus years ago. And I'm just wondering if it's still difficult, if one of the reasons for this to include them, is it solely as Amanda just described, or is it also to encourage experts in this field to stay in their SLP roles, because it's hard to find them and keep them? Can somebody speak to that, either Amanda or Chair Davis or whoever has information, or Leah, if anyone who has, Dr. Voorhees and Dr. Bollinger, anybody who has expertise, not me.
I don't know, Leah and Amanda are staring each other down. Who's going? Okay, Leah, go ahead.
Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent of Student Achievement. This stipend is specifically for paperwork. So, however, to the point about recruitment and retention, paperwork is one of the biggest issues in all of the research that we have done about keeping special education professionals. The paperwork is often overwhelming to both Board Member Bollinger or Vice Chair Bollinger and Board Member Bogus's point. But when this is actually Representative Menlove, that's how long ago we've had this stipend. When this legislation was passed, it was specifically for giving special education teachers and now SLPs the opportunity to have a couple days before the school year starts to get IEP and eligibility paperwork in order, and then a couple days at the end of the school year to get it organized for the coming year. So it isn't specific to recruitment or retention, but it definitely contributes. The issue that I think you are bringing up that is important is that SLPs, because they can have a DOPL license in addition to or instead of a USBE license, can work in the community for significantly, like in some cases exponentially more than in schools. So that overwhelm of paperwork that Vice Chair Bollinger talked about is a significant issue for SLPs.
And just one quick follow-up, Chair, if I can. And that is, this is something you support as a person who's worked in this field for a long time. You think this is a good thing to be able to compensate SLPs as we compensate the classroom?
I think it's a good idea to compensate special education professionals for getting the paperwork, for time to focus on getting the paperwork.
Including SLPs.
Yes,
Okay,
all of them, actually.
Yes, thank you.
Got Member Bogus and then Vice Chair Wood.
So just for clarity, there's nothing in this that says nobody likes SLPs. That was never a part of the motion. I just think with limited funding, we should be putting a preference in our classroom teachers. You know, my experience, and again, please disagree with me and make me smarter. My experience is that our SLPs don't begin to deliver services until a few weeks into the school year. They do a lot of assessment. Kids are coming in and out. And I understand that involves paperwork, but it is not the same as a special education teacher who's tracking kids into services on a 60 or 90-day data plan. It's not the same. To me, it's just not the same. I'm not saying it's not heavy. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I don't believe it's the same. And if we have limited funding, I would like to prioritize our classroom special educators in that funding unless it literally is equal and everybody gets it, and that's okay. But if there's a chance that someone could be denied, I think we should put a preference in this rule that prioritizes our classroom educators.
Okay, I've got a couple of comments. I've got Vice Chair Wood, and then Vice Chair Bollinger, and then Member Kelly. Remember, the motion is to postpone to after lunch. We could just take lunch right now and then come back and pound this out if you're okay with it. We don't need to vote on that. We could just go to lunch. But if we want to continue, then we sure can. But again, the motion before the body is to postpone agenda item 6.4 until after lunch. So speaking to the motion, Vice Chair Wood.
Yes, because the work is going to be done during lunch if we postpone. So I have a question, and maybe to Deputy Superintendent Nui. I'm reading the law. There's nothing about, selecting one over the other in the law. Are we allowed in our rules to go over and above what a law states? Because it seems to me that would be putting in extra into our law.
Elise, please.
Thank you. That is a excellent question. It does not, so the way that the law is written, it defines special educator as a position as a special education teacher, a speech language pathologist, or a teacher of the deaf or hard of hearing. And then it goes through and says that the legislature shall annually appropriate money for stipends for special educators. The State Board of Education shall distribute money appropriated to LEAs for special educators, and that a special educator receiving a stipend, right? So it's always in the totality that all three of those positions fall under this definition. So I think there's a very good legal question as to whether or not we could add that. Typically in the law, we can't be more broad, or we can't be more lenient than state code. We can be more restrictive. And I think this could be viewed as more lenient for speech language pathologists than what is in the law, because it does specify that it should be divided equally. But I would have to look more deeply at it.
Okay, the motion before us then is to postpone agenda item 6.4 until after lunch. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, that motion passes 8 in favor, 7 in opposition. Those opposed being Member Lear, Member Reel, Member Earl, Member Hymas, Member Davis, Member Wood, and Member Bollinger. Chair Davis, we are still in the middle of your committee. Do you want to go to lunch, or do you want to continue on?
Are you kidding me? I don't want to interrupt.
Okay, let's set a 30-minute timer. Thank you. Is ready, she will jump back in. Okay. Chair Davis, I do believe, if I remember correctly, there was some discussion of a potential motion. Chair Davis, do you want to tee us back up? And then I've got a light from Member Bogus.
Yes, sir. That one was that the board continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Thank you. So once again, the motion before the board is that the board continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends, draft 1 on second and final reading. Member Bogus.
Thank you, sir. So at this time, I have no objection to this motion. After consulting with staff, we're going to make a motion during policy requests.
Okay, back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you.
We don't need to move on, but you're right. Before I turn it back to you, let's get ready for a vote on this item.
Okay.
Member Lear, sorry, what was that? We are on agenda item 6.4, and I'm getting a little bit of echo on my microphone. Are you guys hearing that? Thank you. So one more restate of the motion here, and that is that the board continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends draft 1 on second and final reading. Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously with 2 absent. And who are we missing here? Member Green and Member Reel. So back to you, Chair Davis.
Item 6.5. The committee recommends forwarding the state fiscal year 2025 carry forward balance status and approval for use to the full board for consideration.
Thank you. The motion is that the committee recommends forwarding the state fiscal year 2025 carry forward balance status and approval for use to the full board for consideration. Yeah, not sure what I mean, that's a committee.
That's the committee action. Let me change my page here. I have a lot of these.
So does 6.5 just lead into 6.6? Is that what I'm understanding?
Can we ask staff to come up and address this? I thought these were the carry forward balances for our departments.
Are you prepared for that, Deborah, or do we want to wait for Scott? What would you like to do? Okay.
Deborah Jacobson, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. This particular item typically comes to the Finance Committee first. We always shoot for September. This year, things were a little bit tight. We have a very tight timeline when preparing carry forward. So instead of the Finance Committee hearing this first, we had requested that it come straight to the full board for consideration.
Okay, and since it's here, do we need to vote on that? I guess
I think we just need to agendize it for the full board in October. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we're seeking approval of
November.
the uses of these carry forward funds.
and that's agenda item 6.6. Chair Davis, help me understand as I missed something.
Are we voting on those today, those carry forward balances today, right now?
Yes.
Because, okay.
And is that but
So
again,
let me
that's-
rephrase the motion. Well, it's not a committee motion. So the committee, in the interest of time, because the carry forward balances needed to be finished, said instead of bringing those to committee in October and then full board in November will be too far out for departments to start using the monies. And so it would need to be moved in full board. So we need a different motion than what's written here.
And is that motion found in agenda item 6.6?
I'm going to have to make one up right now. So I have well, I don't even have a substitute. I just have I will make the motion that the board approves use of the carry forward balance status, current status. Word is strangely bad.
The motion then is that the board
Let me rephrase it.
Okay.
I move that the board approves use of the carry forward balances for the current status.
Just check the screen there, Chair Davis, and make sure that that's correct.
Is that right, Scott? How do I need to word that? For use in FY26.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The motion before the potential motion before the board is that the board approves use of the carry forwards balances for use in FY 2026. Do we have a second? There's a second. Back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. Is this the one where?
Yeah, the slides. Yeah, you have to.
So this is that also.
If I may, Chair.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
Yes, in the interest of time, so in accordance with the Budgetary Procedures Act, you have to approve use of these balances. And then we've also made some recommendations for what has been left over, because I attest that we can meet all of our requirements. So then if we have balances left over, then we get with the sections and we do the plans.
That's yours.
And then if we have any additional money left over, then we make just maybe 3 recommendations for you to consider as part of the overall approval process of all the section plans for use of carry forward funds from closing activities of the prior fiscal year. And then, recommendations. So if you'd allow Deborah to walk you through the presentation, that would be great. We'll hurry. We know time is the enemy, so.
Yeah. Go ahead, Deborah.
Kelsey, can you, or who's driving? Can somebody pull up the slides? Or do I need to do that? Who's driving?
Yeah, they should be in there. Yeah, they're in there.
And just for clarity, Deborah, are we going over a presentation regarding requests, which is our next agenda item, or?
No,
Okay,
these are,
thank you.
this is separate.
Just the carry, thank you.
Yes.
I think you're in the wrong agenda.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
It's coming. Oh, there we go. Okay. Perfect. If you want to scroll down to the
Next slide.
perfect. Okay, so in this presentation, you'll just notice Scott or Deputy Jones already kind of went through our process that we actually do. Then we'll discuss the overall balances for the agency. And then you'll just see, we won't probably go over those in interest of time, but the individual sections and what their requests are specifically to utilize some of these balances. So if you can scroll down, it's one more, so that's the process. When we close, all carry forward balances are identified in 4 categories. You have your restricted funds that they have a very specific intent and we cannot use it for anything else. You have your funds that are already obligated or encumbered, whether that's by a grant or encumbered through legislation or contracts, those types of things. Then you've got funds we only bring forward to the board for approval, anything that is over $100,000 in the sections. The sections can go ahead and utilize anything less than $1,000 without approval. Everything above $100,000, I'm sorry. Thanks for the correction. Anything above $100,000 then comes to the board for approval. So if you want to scroll down, the next one. This is how USBE actually closed this year. We have close to $500 million in carry forward this year. That's about 7%, just a little over 7% of the overall budget. And you can kind of see in the pie chart the breakout where more than half of it is actually restricted funding. And a good chunk of it is already obligated, leaving a little bit over 35 million that actually needs to come to the board for approval. So in the spend plans below, as you review those, you'll notice that the sections have gone through and identified areas that they want to focus on for the year and how they'd like to utilize those funds. And in some cases, they've identified funding that they can't use, whether a program has closed or there's not enough funding to actually send back out to have an impact for LEAs, or it's not enough money to do any of the actions that they want. So if you go to the next slide, sorry. So as of now, there's been $7.2 million that has been identified that can either go back to the legislature or the board can choose to make some decisions on this. Because this funding is scattered all over the agency, it's in different line items, different appropriations, different programs, it may require legislative action depending on the amount of money that is and what we want to do with it. So in the recommendation box, we've just as some examples that you could potentially motion to use some of this money for. We've included covering the deficit for USDB, possibly a contingency fund for USDB, and then there's a campaign, an attendance campaign that has been spoken about that this might be an option for that funding. The following slides, these are the individual spend plans. I know that this was a little bit late, so I'm not sure if anyone has any questions or has had time to really review them in depth, but I'm available for questions if you've got any for now.
Okay. I've got Member Earl and Member Kelly. Member Earl.
Yes, I want to know on the early warning system that's listed in under data and statistics. Can someone expound on what that is? Is that the safety early warning system, or is this just general, or is this the money from the RFP? Or is this just money we're using to add to the early warning system?
No, so this is the money that was appropriated for the early warning system.
And we
that
just
has
haven't
not-
approved that. Okay.
Correct. That has not gone through yet.
That's all I needed
Yeah.
to know. I didn't know if this was in addition to that.
No,
So, okay.
no.
Member Kelly.
Yeah, my question on the slide, one down from this one, right here, yes. So these recommendations, you have the 1,600,000 for the USDB deficit, the USDB contingency, and the attendance campaign. What would be appropriate motions for the board in terms of moving these balances towards those purposes? Would we make that motion during this presentation later on? Tell me what would be in order for that.
I believe that you can, unless somebody else corrects me, I believe that you can make those motions during this presentation.
Okay.
I believe it would be, if I'm correct, I believe it'd be in our next agenda item, which is
the 6.6.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That's
Okay.
discretionary funds, sir.
Oh.
Separate. These are your closing funds.
Okay.
From 25, and then we get into your discretionary funds in the next item.
Perfect. So it would be, yeah, thank you, and apologies, Deborah. So it would be appropriate once is it an amendment to what help me understand here, because we've got a motion by Member Davis, and then it'd be, so we would take care of Chair Davis's motion, and then an additional motion would come forward. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. And if what will happen here is if you motion these particular three, or if there's any others, then they actually will become, or could potentially become, a legislative ask, because we'll need to request that the legislature moves that funding in order for us to utilize it.
Thank you. We have a question from Vice Chair Wood.
I have a question on the USDB contingency fund. So we're aware where the enrichment funds, they've been splitting them 50-50. Now it's 88% for the School for the Blind, 12% for the School for the Deaf. Could that contingency fund help with some of those enrichment activities? Because what we're being told right now is that they've eliminated all after-school programs, all sports programs, because for the School for the Deaf, for those on-campus kids, because of the lack of funding. But could that be used, or is that something where we might want to facilitate just for this year? It would only, I think we need to look at things in the future, but for right now, given that the audit clarified some things kind of unexpectedly, I think.
Deborah, yeah, let's go ahead.
I would actually advise against that, mainly because the contingency fund, or what we're requesting anyway, is to make sure that we can make it through the year, and make sure that we can cover all outreach while we're finding that funding model. So that's mainly what it's for.
So would we need to make an additional, does this add up to that $7.2 million, these
No.
three requests? So
No.
it would need to be an additional motion if I wanted to bring that forward to support them in this,
Yes.
for this year.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, you've got a light on.
Sir, I echo Deborah's advice to the board. The last thing that we want to do is end up in the same place we did. We need this year, we need contingency just to make sure that we can get to what right is, no problem. But I really would ask for heavy consideration on allowing a set aside for that so that we can make sure that we're not back up to the legislature at year end close 26. That, so still worried about it, not blaming anyone, just wanted to be fiduciarily responsible.
One more follow-up by Vice Chair Wood, then we've got Member Booth.
I apologize. On the 1.6 USDB deficit, will this prevent a trip to the governors, to the, what is it, Board of Examiners? Or is it just helpful saying that the board took care of the needs when we get there?
Deborah, please.
I would say that it's just helpful to say that we were able to fulfill it on our own.
Member Booth.
Question on what amount, based on your study of where we are financially with USDB, what amount would we want to put aside for contingency to make sure that we can meet all of our obligations this current year?
I think the covering the deficit will be a huge help, for one, because we've already started this year out in the negative. So we have to watch that really closely. As far as a contingency, it's hard to say. I would guess around $2 to $3 million. That if they don't utilize those funds, or if they don't need them, would carry over to the next year and could also be used there.
And has there been an amount talked about for attendance campaign?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion before us then, if we can get that up, is that the board approves use of the carry forward balances for use in FY 2026. Let's go ahead and vote on that one. That passes unanimously. I've got Member Kelly in the queue and then Member Booth. Your light.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that the board approve from the USBE closing balances that we fund $150,000 towards an attendance campaign.
The potential motion is, or the motion is that the board approve $150,000 from the carry forward funds or balance.
Is it the closing balances, or is it I'm just looking at the title of that particular slide.
Just make sure Greg's typing this up. Just make sure it gets correct on that.
For an attendance campaign. Yeah, that looks.
Okay, let me get the motion before us is that the board approve $150,000 from the carry forward fund balances for the attendance campaign. Do we have a second? Second. There's a second. Go ahead, Member Kelly.
Yeah, I sent in an email to the board a PDF document outlining a statewide attendance campaign. If you'll look at items number 2 and 3 on that, the first one, we currently have a part-time attendance specialist, Megan Menlove. It expires in the middle of next year, and so, I don't know if I need to be this specific in the motion, but I would, recommend that 52,000 of that 150 go towards extending that contract for Megan. And then item number 3, they have consulted with a PR firm in terms of what a campaign would look like, and the remaining balance I would recommend go towards that advertising with a professional marketing company. So,
Member Booth, are you commenting here? Or are you in the queue for a motion?
I have another motion.
Okay, Member Green.
Yeah, this is for Member Kelly, if he'd like to respond. I am interested in supportive of an attendance campaign funding concept. What I'm wondering though is, what's the messaging that you've maybe thought about as we would launch this? And then it's kind of a loaded question, so let me clarify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do we understand why attendance has dropped? Don't say COVID-19. So I would be interested to know what we are finding. I would also like to challenge us to look at the value that students feel that they do or do not get by attending school itself. If they don't feel like their time is worth it because they're not getting instructed, if it's not rigorous, if they're frustrated because they're actually getting lost in the classroom because they're not supported with textbooks and resources that actually allows a high level environment of learning, they're not going to come.
Sure.
So what I would hope with something like this is that we would pause and take a minute to really think at the level of the kids and ask ourselves why, and them, why are they choosing not to come? Why has it become such an issue? And look at that. Like, we can't just be the adults that are saying, get to school. Like, we have to understand why they don't want to go to school. And I would argue that our kids are very smart. And if they don't feel that they are getting value out of the time with, sitting in the classroom, I would hope that that might be an extension of what an attendance campaign would look like. Thank you.
Member Carey?
Can I respond?
I wasn't sure if there was a question in there.
I mean, it was addressed to me, so I'm just.
Go ahead.
Yeah. There's one of the things that I'm hearing the concerns about teacher quality, and I understand that. Teachers have to make their classroom something that kids feel engaged. Kids feel like they want to be there. They want to be in attendance. I could share stories about my own children in terms of classes that that they didn't attend very often, but still came out just fine in terms of a grade. And so when we're talking about an attendance campaign, I recognize that there's a teacher quality element to that. And I recognize that teachers have got to make sure that they're engaging in their classrooms and that students feel the need to be there. And I recognize that. You asked the question, and this is an opinion from my research and my experience, but there was legislation that was passed in the state of Utah, and I want to say 2017, 2018, that basically made it so that a teacher could not connect participation or attendance to their grade, to a student's grade. And that's when you started to see that decline take place. And again, I recognize the teacher issue. Like I've got to make my classroom engaging, but if as a teacher I'm going to be asked to be accountable for what you learn in my class, but I can't hold students accountable for attending my class, it works against me. It makes it a very difficult process for me to be able to be held accountable for that measure. So if Jen or Megan or Jen, if either one of you guys want to talk more specifically about the campaign, one of the things that I know that they've been working on, this is more of a campaign to help parents understand the importance of attendance versus non-attendance. It's not a campaign where government's coming down saying, if you don't attend, we're going to send your parents to jail type thing, if you will. All right. I mean, I'm pulling out the extremes. I recognize that, but Benji, if you want to maybe talk, the campaign is well underway, but Benji could speak more to the message of the campaign.
Carrier. Oh, there we go. Well, Benji Carrier with the attendance team. Yeah, so we started a campaign. We've been working with with Ryan Bartlett and Sharon Turner and several members of the communication teams here. So we worked with them all summer long and have been putting things out, our Everyday Counts campaign. And so we've got a lot of materials and flyers and social media posts and whatnot that have been going out and supporting, giving schools the opportunity to take those materials and work with them. And we'd love to be able to have more items that we'd, to have little campaign packs that we could send to schools when they sign up and say that this is something that's important to them, that we'd be able to give them little sample packs that then they can, take materials from that. And if they like them, they can order more. And so right now, as far as the messaging with it, in code, it lists that LEAs shall promote regular school attendance and work to mitigate chronic absenteeism and truancy issues. And so that's what we're working on, is promoting regular school attendance, since that's already what's in statute. And so that's the messaging that we're using right now.
Member Longacre.
For me, I don't see a flyer or pins or buttons helping my kids feel like education is important. I feel like when we raise the bar a little bit and start holding people more accountable, absenteeism will go down by itself without us having to spend any money on it. So we need to give kids a reason why school's important, and we need to give parents a reason why school is important. And I don't think a flyer. We need to raise the bar, bottom line.
Member Green.
And I appreciate what you just said, Member Longacre. I think I have some similar beliefs I wanted to clarify too. It's just, I don't think the attendance thing lands just on teachers. It shouldn't. I mean, there has to be this other, I call them the intangibles of learning, the passion, the desire, the allure, the excitement of going and being in a space, where we really get back to inspiring in our children's minds, their imaginations, their positive view of the world that they get to take on and experience as they grow. And I would argue that our schools have become anything but that. I also fear that we have a lot to get over of giving value to attendance when our schools are the main political ring, and we have such a power dynamic and power struggle that it has existed because of programs that we've brought in. The pitting against of morals and ideals of who really holds the power in the child's life. We have a lot to realign ourselves with, and we have a massive reckoning as a state, and I think as a nation, on getting that right. And until I'd hope that we would be thoughtful in these discussions with the attendance committee, that we recognize that that's a big part, and if we choose not to hear it, then we're choosing to be deaf to a very, very clear message that exists in the public square. So I think that we are at a point where we are turning back to what we know works and what we know is right. I hope parents would parent and lead their families. I was privy to a little sound snippet that came from a classroom, and the recording was there because there was some bullying going on, and it was a last resort for this student to get heard, to prove how bad this bullying was happening. And what I ended up hearing was a teacher begging 30 students and trying to help them see why math was so important. And this class was so unruly and so belligerent to this teacher. And my heart sank because I saw a teacher that was giving their all to students that didn't even care. So I recognize that that's another issue. However that happens, where we have a generation that just thrives on no accountability and the humor of being ignorant and not engaging in their own education, I think that's another level that has to be addressed too. It's very complicated. I appreciate the efforts of the first step, and I hope that we can keep developing and having these deep dive conversations about all these issues that just have created this problem. So thank you.
Burbagas?
Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry. I know that you've been called, do you want me to call you that? Okay, well, Benji. I'm looking at this code here, and the code line seems to be 53G-6-206. But this code specifically delegates these efforts to the LEA. We are not an LEA. Is there a code line other than that directs the USBE to address this issue and expend state level funds on it?
Not a code line. This is in our framework. This is a category 2, where we provide technical assistance and support in LEAs to be successful with it, which is what we're doing. We meet with several LEAs. We have cohorts that we provide support and training, other webinars and whatnot. And as we work with them, to meet with them, they have many things on their plates, and they are asking for support and help, and attendance is important to them. They want to promote it. They want to help with it, and they're asking us for help and assistance in doing that. And so that's what we're engaged in doing.
Okay, I have a short follow-up.
Follow-up, go ahead.
Okay, so we had an attendance audit that came out not too long ago. What are we doing to address the recommendations there? Because that had some it basically said we can't say we have an attendance problem until we fix our data problem. And I know that that's a really bold synthesis, but what are we doing to address that to ensure we actually have an attendance problem?
I'm not sure that I'm the right one to answer that question.
I see a light.
We've got,
Well,
Scott.
mine is the audit. Okay. So, Chair, that's a great question because a lot of this correlates to the recent audit that internal audit released or that you released with your permission that does indicate there's a significant attendance problem across our state. I hope that helps.
Member Davis?
I'll speak in favor of the motion. As a principal, I used to say to our teachers, to echo some of the things said here today, our parents give us the best hours of their kids' lives. They come home grumpy, but we get them fresh, and we need to make their hours great. And as a parent, I'm going to say, if any of my kids' teachers are listening right now, you make the experiences great for my kids. As recently as last night at 10 o'clock, I was talking with my son about how fascinating the things are that he's learning in his class. And so great things are happening in our schools, and I see them as a parent and also in my day job. I'm in classrooms across the Wasatch Front, tons of them. And, you know, we do have things occasionally that we do need to fix. But by and large, man, there's cool stuff going on out there. And I would love for kids to be able to come and experience that, and for parents to understand some of the data that is associated with graduation rates and such with attendance. So I'd speak in favor of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Just, there was a question about what's being done for the attendance audit. Superintendent Hart is just going to briefly respond with an invitation to come see her. Superintendent, please.
Yeah, just so everybody is aware and it's on record, we took the attendance audit, we took the audit recommendations, and we're just going through systematically one by one. We're considering what we might need for code changes, rule changes. We're meeting with LEAs. In fact, we're meeting with USSA Monday. I mean, at any given time, if any board member wants to get a status update, I mean, I've got a chart and plenty of documentation to talk with you about the various follow through for audit. I don't just take the audit and say, you know, thanks for the audit. We then go through and systematically respond finding by finding. For instance, one is we may need to revise code to move from an ADM model to an attendance-based model, and we've got the code, you know, specified. We need to talk about it. We need to bring recommendations back to committee. Then we have staff working on various initiatives. I would be more than happy to talk to any board member about what we're doing in response to the attendance audit. It's just a really long conversation. If you would like a study session, I'd be happy to present.
Thank you. I've got three other lights. I know you've spoken already. Those three with their lights on, we'll get to you if you want to continue on this. Just remember that the motion before the board is to use some of that funding, $150,000 of that funding. Where is it? Yeah, it's somewhere on there. Yeah, we're on agenda 6.5. Yeah, you're in 13. 7 agenda items before that. Almost. There you go. Remember that the board is to approve repurposing $150,000 from the FY 2025 carry forward balances to support the Everyday Counts attendance campaign. So it's been reworded a little bit, but that's what we are voting on. So let's get through these comments here, and then we can hopefully be ready for a vote. We've got Member Longacre, Member Kelly, and Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking about campaigns, I think that the USBE should actually do a campaign instead, and our tagline could be "Come back and stay because we raised the bar," and problem solved.
Member Kelly.
I'm going to speak just specifically to my class in terms of what I'm seeing in the classroom as a classroom teacher. I believe that I've created an environment that's engaging. I believe that when kids attend my class, they're being educated and they're getting an experience that I think will help them down the road with a subject matter that they're interested in and is applicable to their lives. The struggle is that, you know, when I've coached a sports team, and when my athletes miss practice, there is a consequence to missing practice. When my students miss class, they miss classroom time, I can't, my hands are tied. There's no consequence that I can give as a result of them missing class. I have to provide them with the same opportunities to make up that work as all other students that were there when that class happened. The level of learning that's taking place for a student that is in class versus a student that's not in class is significant. And we can pretend all day long. The grade may not reflect that, and that's part of the problem. Grades often are not reflecting learning. But this is, you know, trying to help our community, especially parents in areas where education may not be as important culturally to them, but helping them understand that, look, you can get a grade. You can not show up to class and probably still get a grade. Our attendance is getting worse, and our graduation rate's getting better. You know, and it's like, so there's an obvious disconnect there, no question. But when kids are attending class, hopefully, I think in most cases, in a lot of cases, they are getting fed knowledge and information that can be beneficial to them.
Yeah, thank you, Member Bogus. I recognize that you're the last one. We all agree that attendance is a problem. We're specifically talking about funding $150,000. So, Member Bogus, please, to the motion.
Sorry. You know, I think one of the things to the motion, I'm not in favor of this motion, but I want to tell you why. It's when students miss my class, they regret it, and not in like a dysfunctional way. It's because when they come back, they've missed content and they struggle in the upcoming sessions of that class. And so they make an effort to be there. They schedule around it, even doctor's appointments. And that's not common in what I do. Usually it's the class that's used to miss because it's not considered important. And so when that's happening, yet we have grades that aren't reflecting learning, how is it that we have an attendance problem, but we have students that are earning A's? I think that our problem is not with attendance. I think it's much deeper than that. I think it's because kids know they can miss school and manipulate people into changing their grades on the back end. And I know how many teachers call me and say, my principal forced me to change this grade. One said they weren't going to do it, and the principal changed the grade. And so if we are incentivizing missing school with behaviors like that, an attendance campaign is not going to fix attendance. And I just don't want to expend taxpayer funding on this when I don't think it actually gets to the root of the issue.
Member Longacre, to the motion, please.
Yes, to the motion. Can I make a motion to table this, talk about it, because it is important? I don't want to miss anything. Can we table it, talk about it? What's another T that I can use? I don't know. To tomorrow.
You can,
Table it, talk about it tomorrow.
You can make a motion to table this item until tomorrow. Let's just make sure that it gets on your screen correctly.
Because I do think it's important, Cole. But we could add a little more to it. This motion. So do I just read that? That's it? Okay. I make a motion. Sorry.
Hold on a second.
We just did.
So
The motion needs to be to postpone discussion of the $150,000, blah, 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 until tomorrow's unfinished business. That's technically, that would get you out of both issues.
okay. So we have a motion from Member Longacre to table Member Kelly's motion, which is above, and that is for the that the board approve repurposing $150,000 for the attendance campaign until tomorrow's unfinished business. Is that correct, Member Longacre? Do we have a second? There's a second. Do you want to speak to that? No? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote then. That motion passes 12 in favor, 3 opposed, those opposed being Vice Chair Wood, Member Davis, and Member Hymas. So that is tabled until tomorrow. Member Booth.
Thank you, Chair Hymas. I would move that the board approve using $1.6 million of the carry forward balance to take care of the USDB deficit, and that we commit $3 million of the carry forward balance as a USDB contingency fund for the current year, realizing that anything left over at the end of the year would be returned to the carry forward balance fund.
Let's make sure we get that mouthful of emotion on the screen, if that's okay, Member Booth.
Thank you.
That's a full one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board approves repurposing 1.6 million from the FY25 carry forward balances to address the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind budget deficit, and that the board approves repurposing $3 million to establish a contingency fund for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and that any unused balance goes back for reallocation. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Back to you, Member Booth, to speak.
those of us that have had the privilege of sitting in on the USDB committee and reviewing the work of the special advisory council that's been developed by the legislature recognize that we've been through a very intense period of evaluation and study. Shout out to Deborah and Scott and their team for the great work that has been done in helping us determine what needs to be done in order to get everything in line and moving forward for these amazing kids that we have the opportunity of educating. And I think these are very much needed funds, and that we're blessed to have those funds available so that they can continue to do the good work that they are doing uninterrupted by the situation that they find themselves in right now until we get everything organized. I think this is a great use of our carry forward balance funds.
Member Carey?
Thank you, Chair. So the way I understand the motion, we're seeking $4.6 million. Is that correct? And the way I read it is that 1.6 million will be used to resolve last year's budget deficit from the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and we're going to use 3 million for a contingency fund. So and I just wanted to make sure that background was right, but so if we satisfy the $1.6 million deficit, are there other debts still associated with the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind that are not going addressed?
I believe that's to you, Deborah.
It's hard to say what there is. So we feel like, we've gone through they've had to go through a RIF to kind of bring their budget back into balance. We don't know what we don't know at this point in time. It's probably going to take a couple of years to get through this. So to have a contingency fund in the event that we run into issues, obviously we will focus on staying within the budget. That is the goal at the end of the day. But we still have a little bit of an imbalance with the outreach services that we're still trying to solve and work through.
Chair, if I may. So I don't know if it's a fair question when I say I don't need an exact number, but is there a ballpark number in terms of what that unidentified financial need will be? Is it possible to give it?
There really isn't. Part of the problem is that they have overextended themselves in a way of taking on, or they've committed themselves to IEPs that they need to provide services for, but they don't have the budget to cover most of those, which is one of the reasons that we will be charging all LEAs for services, whether or not based under the current fee schedule that has been approved by the legislature, that's enough to cover all of the outreach services. That's the piece we don't know.
Chair, one final question. So generally, if someone from staff wants $100,000, they show up and say, we need $100,000 for this specific project or program. You're now asking for $3 million for a contingency fund without really specifying what that money, hence the word contingency, right? We don't know. So I just like a better understanding of who decides where that money, when that money from that pool of $3 million, who decides how that will be allocated, how much will be spent?
Yeah.
Scott, please.
To answer Board Member Carey's question, it would be me, sir, because I'm responsible for your budget, for the budget you direct, and that you're responsible for. So if, and we're not saying it will happen,
If we do it, then it will be to be that, well, listening to Deborah, of course, that decides what to do. So, if we need to, again, the last thing that we want to do is take the risk of having to go back up to the legislature and ask for more ongoing money to cover a deficit the next year. That's what happened with the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation. They were in the hole 1 year. Then they said, yep, you give us money, we'll be good. Then the next year they went back in the hole. And then it totaled up to around $6 to $8 million. And so I just as as a primary staff officer to you, that's all I'm recommending. It would be my decision, but we'd always be transparent about what those decisions were or are given the circumstances. Does that help answer Board Member Carey's question?
It does. One more follow-up, Chair. And thank you, Deputy Superintendent. I do feel much better knowing that those decisions will involve you. My question would be, when we get the financial reporting from USDB, I'm assuming that these expenditures would be included in that financial report that we regularly get. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
The motion before the board then is that the board approves repurposing $1.6 million from the FY25 carry forward balances to address the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind budget deficit, and that the board approves repurposing $3 million to establish a contingency fund for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and that any unused balance go back for reallocation. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes 14 in favor, 1 opposed, that coming from Member Longacre. I believe we are on to, back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. These next two motions are motions for kind of budget items that we've had consistently through the years until we get to motion number 4, and then I'll let you know when it's a new one. But
for clarity, are we moving on to 6.6?
Oh, no. Yes, we are on 6.6.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We move that the board approves continuing a contingency fund, speaking of contingency, of $200,000 and a legal contingency fund of $250,000.
The motion is that the board approves continuing a contingency fund of $200,000 and a legal contingency fund of $250,000. Scott?
Sir, could we just, at your direction, pull up the discretionary funds sheet and orient the board members to it so they can see these proposals, or maybe they are looking at them, but the public, I don't think, can see it unless we pull it up, right? Yeah, this one right here. So you see the ones highlighted in yellow or should match the motions that Board Member Davis is making. I just want to make sure you're seeing what thing, and then the balances in the upper right-hand corner are as if you pass these motions, so that, those are taken out, and that if all these were to pass, that would be the remaining balance. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. So the motion before us then is that the board approves continuing a contingency fund of $200,000 and a legal contingency fund of $250,000. Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Davis.
The committee moves that the board approves using $350,000 of state discretionary funds to support the Office of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, $100,000, continue on-site security guard services at the USBE office, $150,000, and establish a building operations budget for fiscal year 2026 covering various replacements and repairs, $100,000.
The motion is that the board approves using $350,000 of state discretionary funds to support to, and then it has the following. Support the Office of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, $100,000. Continue on-site security guard services at the USBE office, $150,000. Establish a building operations budget for fiscal year 2026, covering various replacements and repairs, $100,000. Seeing no lights, let's vote. Oh, we got a question from Member Bogus.
I know you don't like lights, sir, but I would like to know exactly what our superintendent, sorry to put you on the spot, Superintendent Hart, what are you going to expend 6 figures on?
I was just going to prep either Deborah or Scott. You can start with the Rural Schools Conference. And how much was that, the rural schools?
So last year, that totaled close to $60,000. We
Right.
anticipate it being around that amount. So that in itself will eat up half of this.
And then, so I'm new, so it's easier to say what it was spent on in the past. It isn't a new ask. What, there are a couple other big items. That are, I feel like it's, the word discretionary in there is somewhat of a misnomer. It is pretty much committed. What are the other expenditures that come out of that? Teacher of the Year and, oh, did we move that one? Okay. What are the other expenditures that come out of there?
So the other expenditures beyond URSA, which has been, or the Rural Schools Conference, was been a consistent expense. There's been some other expenses over the years outside of that.
Right.
So it does, the remainder of the 50,000 does vary. And we can provide that to you on what it's been used before, but the process has been really just about 5 or 6 years ago, it seemed that the $100,000. So we just try to true that up each year so that first and foremost, we can support the URSA conference, but then there's some other around 50,000 that the superintendent has for other things as they may come up on that too. So there's really not anything beyond URSA that's very consistent year to year to year to year. It varies. It has varied in the prior years.
So can I just very briefly, so this is not going to remodel your office.
Oh, heavens, no. This is
I made that up. I'm not making an accusation. I made that
Yeah,
up. But
no.
I think my point is made.
Yeah, in fact, I stole furniture from an office. Sorry, whoever's office it was, but I have a 4-drawer file now. And I'm not kidding, it's in my office. No, this is for like, just incidental, like, I do remember when I was on the board, we did some with Teacher of the Year. There are some with, there's some software that employ. Yeah, oh, yes, employee action committee, having the food trucks, having the blood drives. They do a few activities each year. The employee of the month, just those incidental things that come up. Or yes, we did some agency professional development, and we did the training for the workload, the email, not Google, but just maximizing your inbox training, just the little things. It is not to remodel my office. I do not have a discretionary card where I go out and buy things. These are things that don't fit in other areas or that were not anticipated ahead of time.
Okay, and I appreciate you taking that on the fly. I know that was a little uncomfortable, but thank you for that.
Member Green?
I just wanted to ask, was that 75 last year or the year before? I'm seeing you guys
So,
and a no.
Chair Imus, just to be clear, at the URSA conference or?
No, just the the state
No, I believe
discretionary.
it's been, it was
or,
100,000.
sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's I'm sorry. Yeah, it's different every year. So yes, it was 75,000 last year. It's different this year because there has been increased costs with URSA. So we were just trying to, based on what we don't know, but hence the word discretionary, right? That the superintendent has around $100,000 to cover URSA, and then roughly 40 to do these other things that might come up, professional development, employee support, those types of things. So does that answer
It
Board Member
does,
Green's
and
question?
follow up. Can we expect that amount keeps going up every year? Has that been the trend?
I wouldn't. The URSA. Yeah.
No, just
Okay, just overall.
the state superintendent of public instruction.
We've actually varied between, so some years there was depending on what the superintendent was forecasting, what they predicted, we've been as high as 150, dropped down to 75, now we're at 100. So yes, it might go up, but I don't think since I've been here, it's been more than 150, right? Yeah, I think 150,000 has been the highest in the 10 years I've been here, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board approves using $350,000 of state discretionary funds to support the office of the state superintendent of public instruction, $100,000. Continue on-site security guard services at the USBE office, $150,000. Establish a building operations budget for fiscal year 2026, covering various replacements and repairs, $100,000. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. Over to you, Chair Davis.
Are you back to me? Thank you. The next one is exciting. We have no motion for the board because we were going to use $550,000 to work on the SLDS program, and the federal money came through, so we do not need to use our discretionary monies, and that work will continue as it has been going on. So the next motion for the board, and this one is one that has not been year after year. This one is a new, it was a new committee discussion, which is that the board approves the allocation of $32,500 in state discretionary funds to support a statewide essay contest commemorating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence for students in grades 5, 8, and high school. And the proposed funding breakdown is $25,000 would mean 250 awards of $100 each, and $7,500 for 3 awards of $2,500 each, which should be more of like a scholarship situation. But and I'd like to speak to that for a moment, Chair, if I may.
Yeah, you may. We've got some questions, but go ahead.
Okay, just quickly, this is something that Member Green and I had been tossing around, and then, so we discussed it in committee and felt like this would be a great way to move forward. As we know, we have the 250th celebration of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in July of 2026. And so we want to be a part of that. We want to have kids reading the Declaration of Independence and what did that mean, and what does it mean now? And we just feel like there are a lot of exciting things going on throughout the state, and we want USBE to be a part of that as well, and our students to be a part of that.
Member Earl.
Sorry. I would like to make an amendment that we add an additional $6,000 for $1,000 awards for 2 runners-up for each of those. If I understood the 250 or 2,500 award was in 3 grade levels. Is that right? Like a 5th grade, right? Am I right saying that right?
I actually thought those would be in high school.
Oh, you're just doing the
First, so they could use first college.
Sorry, can we
Okay,
clarify
okay.
on Member Davis? Will you hit your mic and
Yeah.
so yeah, we've got a question by Member Earl.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're doing three of the upper grade?
$2,500 that they can use for
Okay,
scholarship.
and
for money.
I'm going to suggest that we do a couple of runners up with $1,000 so that it's not just this large and then these smaller ones, but it's a large and then,
So like 3 second place awards for $1,000 each.
yeah. Or 6. I'm going to recommend 6, so there's 2 that would accompany, do you know what I mean?
Each winner?
Yeah.
2
Runners up or however you want to.
runners up that would accompany each winner.
Yeah. So we
For
cover a broad
$6,000.
spectrum.
So
Yeah.
there's a motion to amend, and that is that the board add an additional $6,000 to be used for 6 runners up to the 3 $2,500 winners.
And those would be $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Is there a second? Second to that? Good. That's been seconded. Member Earl.
It's a good idea. I don't.
Only the votes will tell. Okay. I've
Not
got
always.
To this motion, Member Longacre, or to the previous one? Okay, go ahead.
Board Member Davis is one. Okay, not yet.
No worries. Sorry, Superintendent Hart, go ahead.
I'd like to go on public record. I will be seeking volunteers to judge, and I am hoping that we will have people judging. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to this motion, Member Longacre, you're speaking to the underlying motion. Who's speaking to the amendment? I've got Member Bogus, Member Lear, Member Green. Member Bogus to the amendment? Okay, go ahead.
So I'm not opposed to this. I just want to know what the rubric we're going to use what the rubric we're going to use to determine this is before. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, let's give somebody second place, but what is it like? Hey, I like this kid's handwriting better, or is it I agree with them better? Where's the rubric that's going to be used to adjudicate this? Because I think just throwing this out there without a metric of measurement is not healthy. I think it puts us in a tenuous space. I think the original motion puts us in a tenuous space, but this becomes more tenuous.
I don't know if we're even at that space to have a rubric yet. Cindy, do you want to answer that question?
We absolutely have to have a rubric.
And Member Green and I will be working on that with any staff members who are willing to be interested in it. A couple have said they are, and we don't want to get too far and spend hours and hours on the weeds and before we knew if it was something that members would be interested in doing or not. So if members want, Member Green, I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if she can hear me or not, but would you be comfortable if we continue to work throughout this month and then bring some of those more specifics now that we see an interest back to board members next month?
Yeah.
He's so thrilled. Yes, as you can see, there's a lot of details that have to be worked through, but we do have conversations that we have started with other people throughout the state that are working on this. I personally have I was in a meeting where there were 6 superintendents, and they were all very, very excited. First, they are working on things within their own district, but to bring something together statewide, there was a lot of excitement about that. And one superintendent in particular said that he remembers when he was in school and they did a big celebration, and I forget what it was, but it was one of these number celebrations, and it stuck with him his whole life. And his desire is that they can do something in their district that will carry that forward for the next generation. So I think we'll get a lot of support, which means we're going to have a lot of reading to do. And we hope to bring you a little bit more detail. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Member Lear, are you speaking to this motion or the previous? Okay. Okay, so the motion then is that the motion to amend is that the board add an additional $6,000 to be used for 6 runners-up to the 3 $2,500 winners at $1,000 each. Cindy, are you speaking to this motion? Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. We're now back to the underlying motion as amended. And so we have three categories, right? We have $100 recipients, we have $1,000 recipients, and now we have, $2,500 recipients, and now we have $1,000 recipients. So, and that will be for 250 awards at 100 each, 6 awards at $1,000 each, and 3 awards at $2,500 each. Next, we have Member Longacre.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I think this is a great idea and I wish we would do more things like this. My question is, are we skipping 6th and 7th grade? And if we are, how come we're not including them?
Is that to the,
Respond?
go ahead, Jess.
Because U.S. history is studied in 5th and 8th, and then in high school, it can fluctuate usually between 10th and 11th. So we just put high school as a category.
Okay. Let's prepare to vote here.
Can I say one more quick thing? We've also, Member Green and I have also connected with the governor's commissioner for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence to make sure we weren't crossing over a space that had already been covered. The legislatures or Congress people are doing some speech contests and things, but there is not and there's some nationwide essay contests, but not a statewide essay contest. And that's why we decided to go this direction.
Thank you. What do they call it when you've already sold something and you continue to sell it?
Well, I didn't say, I just want people to know. I don't want people to say, well, they're already doing all this
Yes.
stuff. Well, we can fit in this niche.
No, all of this is good. I don't think there's, you
Okay.
know, we'll let the votes speak for themselves, but I think
I'll stop beating a dead horse.
we're in agreement here. So, yeah, Member Bogus.
Amend this to bring it back to the board next month so that we can continue to work the rubric? Or are we assigning that to an ad hoc committee? Because I have deep concerns about the rubric.
There's no motion currently to hold on the potential funding until a rubric is made.
But do we need to attach that so that this can come back as an agenda item next month?
That's what I'm telling you. There's no motion to do so. I'm just telling you processes. I'm not saying we should or should not. Member Green.
Where we are in the process right now is what's in front of the screen. So there's a lot of detail that we're working out. I don't know that we would be ready in a month to have a rubric, but I do think in a month we would have a plan. So if we could bring a plan, I could make a motion that we will bring a plan. But I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm open. We can have those discussions as well.
So the motion before the board is that the board approves the allocation of $38,500 in state discretionary funds to support a statewide essay contest commemorating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence for students in grades 5, 8, and high school. Proposed funding breakdown: $25,000 for 250 awards of $100 each, $6,000 for 6 awards of $1,000 each, $7,500 for 3 awards of $2,500 each. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Davis.
That's all for finance. Thanks.